Hello YouTube, this is Sam Gerrans from Qur'anite.com. Today is Tuesday the 25th of January 2022 and I'm going to continue with my series of videos about surahs between 50 and 114. Today we're looking at Surah 94. Now just before we get into that, if you haven't watched the one about Surah 93, it's possibly worth doing that before you watch this, and the reason is because to my mind they really kind of feed into each other. They're both dealing with the messenger, his own personal life, his personal situations, the difficulties that he personally faced. Now obviously the traditionalist has a stock of stories that he ascribes to different portions of the Qur'an depending on what he wants to achieve. What he primarily wants to achieve is an outcome by which the Qur'an could be made somehow to comport with his preferred stock of stories, which are some portion of, depending on how he cuts them up and how he defines them, of what's known as the aḥādīth. Now, this isn't the main focus of this channel, but it is undeniable that these are two, I don't know if they're entirely different narratives, but they certainly, there's no one-to-one relationship between these narratives, and the character called Muhammad in the Hadith is an entirely different character to the recipient of the Qur'an. And we've shown that many times. Again, this isn't the primary focus of this channel. I do have to critique the traditionalist mainly because he insinuates himself between the book, the Qur'an, which is intended as a preaching and a guidance to mankind, and mankind itself. So he invites it. I don't have an abiding interest in him, or at least I don't have any more of an interest in him than I do, let's say, in the Jehovah's Witness or the Hare Krishna movement, or whoever it is. I do have to critique him because of how he interpolates himself really as a gatekeeper and as the arbiter of what this book means. So that's why I have to address him. So now I hope we've done with some of him for today, and we'll just jump into the main topic. It's just a short surah, Surah 94. Did we not expand thy breast for thee, and lay down from thee thy burden, which weighed down thy back? And we raised for thee thy remembrance, and with hardship is ease. With hardship is ease. So when thou art unoccupied, make thou ready, and to thy Lord turn thou thy desire. So this is the totality of the surah. I'm just going to go through it bit by bit. Obviously it's not long, so it shouldn't take too long, although I have been known to make rather long asides, but we'll see how we go. So did we not expand thy breast for thee? Well, the inference here, things can be known by their opposites. In fact, you need an opposite in order to know a positive. If there isn't, those things don't exist. Things are known by their relative merits. For example, you don't know darkness unless there's light, etc. So did we not expand thy breast for thee? Well, there is a story about Muhammad, and I'm sure, I don't know precisely what the extraneous literature written 150, 200 years later is, which bits of that the traditionalists or various traditionalist movements ascribe to these particular verses, because I'm not really interested in them, so I don't concentrate on that. But the fact is that from this verse, did we not expand thy breast for thee? It means that the person that this is directed to, at some point, his breast was constricted. So there was a point at which he was, in the past, his breast was constricted. And as we saw in 93, if you look at the last one in this, 93:7, which we looked at last time, it says, did he not find thee fatherless and give thee shelter, and find thee astray and guide? This doesn't comport at all with the general outline storyline that we're given by the traditionalist. And find thee in need and make sufficient. So there is a way in which it would be possible to cobble together some sort of life outline for the recipient of the Qur'an. But here we find at sort of 94 that by definition, he's at some point his breast must have been constricted. Well, this has a broad application as well, because as I say many times in these talks, the one of the constants in the Quran is that it's God who guides. It's not Muhammad who guides. It's not a later compilation of hadith that guides. It's not mullahs who guide. It's not me who guides. It's not any other individual who guides. It's God who guides. God either guides or he doesn't guide. That's it. That's the way it works. Well, God guided Muhammad. God guides certain people in life. I have no idea what the sort of underlying systems of that are. I don't believe that those things are attainable, at least outside of mystical experiences. And mystical experiences, sure, they have value for the people who experience them, but they're not something you can communicate to somebody else. You can't write it down and communicate it. So it's nothing you can really use in a sort of social setting, at least. Did we not expand thy breast for thee, and lay down from thee thy burden? So there was a period of time in which Muhammad, the recipient of the Qur'an, was carrying a burden. Well, again, isn't this not encouraging for all of us? I don't know anybody who came to religious faith of any kind, actually. I'm just leaving aside either the broader church of so-called Islam or what I mean by Islam or what other people mean by Islam, leaving that all to one side. I don't think there are many people who really consider the verities of the heaven and the earth without having carried a burden at some point. So Muhammad carried one, and God laid it down from him, which weighed down thy back. And we raised for thee thy remembrance. Now, this correlates in the Qur'an to, certainly to me suggests signposts. There's the case of Abraham, and that he will raise his remembrance. Well, I would say that this is true in the Qur'an. This is realized in the Qur'an, because the story, let's take Abraham for example, the story of Abraham as presented in the Hebrew scriptures as we have them today is hardly, I wouldn't say it's particularly complimentary. If you read it, just a cold reading of Abraham in the book of Genesis, it doesn't reflect very well on him, and certainly you're missing the entire context for God's choosing him. It's just, whoops, God chose him, and there he is chosen. There's no backstory, there's no reason for it. We have all of this in the Qur'an. Also, you have the case of his pretending that his wife is his sister. And this is in the book of Genesis. And then when they come into, because he's afraid that a king whose land he's in is going to have him killed. And it's all very confusing if you read the Genesis version, because Sarah's supposed to be very old. They need her to be very old because there's going to be this miraculous child coming along later on. But then a king is, for some reason, a reason wasn't able to divine, is quite likely to have sexual designs upon her. And so Abraham says, oh well, she's just my sister. And then this king says, eventually finds out that was the case, and that Abraham was lying, and and basically Abraham shakes him down for money, in order to let him, let the whole thing kind of lie. And the only really righteous person in that story, in fact, most of the stories, if you look in that sort of area of the book of Genesis, is the king himself, who's supposed to be some sort of, who's not really the main feature of the story. All that to get to the point to say that in the Qur'an, the memory of Ibrahim, of Abraham, is raised back to his rightful status. Now, I would suggest, now this isn't a point of doctrine with me, but I would suggest that if you're going to take that as a correlation to this point, that the remembrance of Muhammad is restored to its rightful place in the Qur'an against the tsunami of stories, of hearsay made up about him by supposedly the people who love him most. Is it really a great thing if the only thing that we know that Muhammad received, the only thing that all Muslims in the world, by definition, I mean, I'm using Muslims in the sort of political sense, agree upon is that the Qur'an is from God. That's the only thing that the Shias and the Sunnis and all the various sort of sects that make up those general kind of churches, the only thing they agree upon just about is this one thing, is that Muhammad received the Qur'an. It's the one thing. And it's quite clear that Muhammad didn't give any orders for anything else to be written down. How much love does it really show, or respect, then to go and follow something completely different? I would argue that it's a misplaced respect at the very least, especially in a context in which the book which all Muslims agree upon as from God, preserved, complete, says that it is from God, God will preserve it, and it is complete. In that context, to go after something else seems to me to be inherently contradictory to the foundation upon which you claim to stand. Anyway, let's continue. And we raised for thee thy remembrance, and with hardship is ease. With hardship is ease. Well, clearly the Prophet Muhammad experienced hardship, and this you will find in the story that is possible to kind of discern about his life from the Qur'an, sketched as it is in sort of thumbnail points. But what we do find also, just before getting to the hardship and ease point, is that what you find with the stories in the Qur'an is that it presents almost like key nodes, like a constellation of stars. Any story which doesn't fit with all of those key nodes is false. And this is all you need. Sure, you can point to one bit, and this is pretty much the traditionalist's methodology. What he has is this wall, the Qur'an, and what he's doing is sort of throwing bits of mud at it in his preferred stories, and some of it seems to stick. It does seem to stick as long as you just look at that one brick. But if you look at the whole wall, it doesn't. I'll give you another example. I was talking once with his mechanic, and I was asking him what it's like being a mechanic and how it works. And apparently, if a car has been in an accident, the way it works is that every single car has got a sort of a blueprint. And if it's been in an accident and the chassis has been in some way twisted, you place the chassis on some machine and you pull the chassis. You don't need to worry about the whole chassis. You just have to make sure that these key points fit with the blueprint. Once the key points fit with the blueprint, the chassis is right. Now, if you are a mechanic and you know a lot more about this than I do, which you definitely do, please forgive me if my explanation here is not perfect. But this is how it was explained to me, and I thought this was very interesting. I sort of placed this factoid in my brain, and several years later it became useful to me because, in a way, it's true with the story of Muhammad's life. Sure, you could, as it were, place your chassis on this blueprint and get one node and it seems to fit, and this is kind of the traditionalist's methodology. But for the whole thing to fit, like a constellation, like a key sort of nodes that are fixed, to get all 5 in place or all 8 in place or whatever it is, that's a very different thing. And we find if we do that this extraneous supposed explanation just falls apart. Anyway, we'll continue. And I wanted to get back into hardship and ease. It's certainly been my experience that with hardship comes a form of ease. Obviously, hardship and ease are inherently antithetical. I mean, if you think about it, it's like black and white. However, what one finds is that within the hardship, almost like the yin-yang sign, within each of the particular parts of the dichotomy, there is placed within it a sort of inner essence of ease. And that clearly was true for the recipient of the Qur'an, but it's true for all of us. And I know that a lot of people, quite understandably, are very concerned about what's going on in the world at the moment, especially with our good friends, the New World Order and ruling elites and what they're doing. It can feel, and it does feel sometimes, that it's an unbearable weight. But there is certainly, I found it to be the case, and through fasting also, as people who know my channel more broadly will know. By concentrating on areas of self-discipline and dedication to God, you find that there is an inner kernel of peace in the midst of storm, as it were. So clearly this was the case for Muhammad himself, and it has a broader application for us too. To the last two verses, verse 7, so when thou art unoccupied, make thou ready, and to thy Lord turn thou thy desire. So this with make thou ready, I've got a note on the screen here which comes from my work, the Qur'an, a Complete Revelation, which you can read for free. You can download for free, but you can also read it online. And the benefit to that is that all the notes, and there are a lot. I mean, I don't know what the total count of the book is. It's over 650,000 words now. But all of the notes, you can just click on a blue number and they'll just pop up underneath. And that is at reader.qur'anite.com. So I have it on the screen. And this verb has a range of meanings, which includes to raise, rear, to erect, to set up, to put up, to prepare, to get ready. Non-sectarian A.J. Arbery uses labour here, and N.J. Dawood uses resume your toil. Now I've gone for make thou ready. I've sort of emphasised the preparing aspect of this. Sectarian translators tend to see here an imperative to stand up for worship, which you can understand given their broader concerns, but which is not there in the text. And to thy Lord turn thou thy desire. So, it's we know on the day of judgment, this is that for which thou strove. We get what we strive for. It's pretty much John Paul Sartre pretty much said that existentialism is founded on this, that you've kind of got what you want. Certainly that can correlate to some appreciable degree with statements in the Qur'an. So be careful what you wish for, especially when you're being buffeted from every side by lies, very, very potent mind control, and other forms of manipulation. So we all have times when we're not occupied, and if you turn direct to God your desire, and for me at least, the place where I find the clearest connections to God are through His words and through discipline, fasting. It doesn't mean you have to fast all the time or anything like that, but regular fasting, once a month, whatever you do, whatever you can do, you will find that it firstly it increases your confidence that you can survive without, because this is how the shaitan gets you. He promises you, he threatens you with poverty. So, and especially in this time when everyone thinks if they can't get the right kind of latte that they want, that they're suffering some kind of unheard of hardship. But if you apply those sorts of disciplines and make them part of your practice, then you will find that you achieve a certain distance or insulation, at least, from the broader panic that people are trying to push you through. And just to speak to what's going on at the moment in the UK, at least, I'm not based in the UK, but I am English, so I take an interest. They've sort of got rid of QR codes, at least for now, and this, that, and the other. But they'll all be back. This will all be back. It's just it's almost worse when they're not doing it to you. As I've mentioned in previous talks, I read a book on Chinese torture techniques of American GIs. Well, it wasn't just about Chinese torture techniques, but it was about brainwashing and how the Chinese military did this. And one of the things that they used when they were torturing American soldiers, this is wars like, proxy wars, like Korea and so on, would be to torture them really badly every day at a regular time, and then just stop. And then those soldiers' own minds would start to work against them. It was almost worse. And then they start again. So anyway, on that happy note, I think we'll leave it there. I hope everyone is well, and I'm going to see if I can get some more stuff done this week and upload it too. Bye for now. If you're listening on YouTube, you can download my full translation of the Qur'an and all other work free using the button in the top right-hand corner, or buy the hard copy there at 10% less than on Amazon. You can download the audio from my YouTube videos to your mobile device using the links in the drop-down below. I recommend meetquranites.com to connect with other Qur'an-alone believers. Like if you like, comment if you have something constructive to say, and subscribe to get more each week. And use the link in the drop-down below to donate if you would like to help me keep doing this. And remember, this life is short, eternity is long. If you want good trees, plant good seeds.